The evening sky had turned a deep purple as Amara Johnson drove home from the university library. Her eyes burned from hours of studying for her economics exam, but she felt good about being prepared. The road was mostly empty, streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement as her silver sedan cruised down the main avenue. Amara had saved for 3 years to buy this car, working weekends at her aunt's restaurant while maintaining her scholarship. The memory of the day she finally drove it off the lot still made her smile. Tonight she just wanted to get home, make some tea, and call her dad before bed. Red and blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror, startling her from her thoughts. Amara checked her speedometer. She was going exactly the speed limit. She signaled and pulled over carefully, heart beginning to race despite having done nothing wrong. She'd heard too many stories from friends and family members about routine stops that went badly. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, turning down her music and placing both hands visibly on the steering wheel as her father had taught her years ago. 2 officers approached, one on each side of her car. The taller one shined his flashlight directly into her eyes through the driver's side window. "License and registration," he said flatly without explaining why he'd pulled her over. "May I ask what this is about, officer?" Amara asked politely, maintaining eye contact despite the blinding light. The officer, his nameplate read Daniels, smirked slightly. "Taillights out. License and registration, please." Amara knew her taillights were fine. She'd just had the car serviced last week. But she nodded and said, "Of course." "My registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach for it now." She moved slowly, aware of the second officer watching her every movement from the passenger side. As she handed over her documents, Officer Daniels looked at her license, then at the car, then back at her. "This your car?" he asked, eyebrow raised. "Yes, sir, I bought it last year." The second officer, shorter with a round face and nameplate reading Thompson, whistled low. "Pretty nice ride for a college kid. What did you say your major was again?" "I didn't say, but I'm studying economics and international relations." Amara replied, keeping her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. She hadn't mentioned being in college at all. Officer Daniels handed the documents to his partner. "Economics, huh? Daddy must be real generous with his money." Amara took a slow, deep breath. "I work part-time and I have a scholarship." The officers exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. "Step out of the vehicle, please," Officer Daniels said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "May I ask why? I haven't done anything wrong." "Just routine procedure. Step out of the car." His hand moved to rest on his belt. The night air felt cold as Amara carefully exited her car, standing straight in her simple jeans and university sweatshirt. A few cars drove past, slowing down as drivers noticed the police lights. "Stand over here," Officer Thompson directed, pointing to the space between her car and the police cruiser. Under the harsh streetlight, Amara felt exposed as more vehicles slowed to look. "Nice hair," Officer Daniels commented, walking around her in a slow circle. "Very natural." The way he said natural made it sound like an insult. Amara had worn her hair in its natural curls since high school, proud of its texture and volume. Now she felt self-conscious under his scrutiny. "We get a lot of complaints about drug activity in this area," Officer Thompson said casually, as if making conversation. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" "No, sir. I was just heading home from the library." "Library closes at 9. It's nearly 11, Officer Daniels pointed out, looking through her wallet. "The university library is open until midnight during exam week," Amara explained, watching helplessly as he flipped through her cards. "University student, huh? Must be nice," Thompson said, opening her car door and looking inside. "Mind if we take a look around?" Before Amara could respond, Daniels cut in. "Actually, I think I smell something suspicious. Gives us probable cause." He smiled at Amara. "You understand, right? Smart university girl like you must know all about probable cause." Amara felt her cheeks burn but kept her expression neutral. "I haven't done anything wrong and there's nothing illegal in my car." "Well, we'll just have to see about that," Daniels replied. "Stand right there where we can see you." A small crowd had gathered now, 3 people on the sidewalk watching and a woman in a parked car across the street who appeared to be recording with her phone. Amara felt a mix of humiliation and relief. Witnesses could be both embarrassing and protective. The officers began searching her car thoroughly. Thompson pulled out her backpack, unzipping every compartment and dumping her textbooks onto the seat. Daniels opened the glove compartment, rifling through her car manual and maintenance records. "Economics textbooks," Thompson called out, holding up her heavy textbook. "Looks boring. Girl like you should be studying something easier," Daniels added with a chuckle. "Maybe dance or something." Amara bit her tongue. Each comment made it clearer this wasn't about any taillight. She watched as they searched under seats and in every possible storage space. The small audience of onlookers had grown to about 7 people now, some whispering to each other. "What's this?" Thompson asked suddenly, pulling a small gift box from her backpack. "It's a birthday present for my roommate," Amara explained. "Her birthday is tomorrow." Thompson opened it anyway, finding a delicate silver bracelet inside. He whistled. "Fancy gift. Sure this is yours to give?" The implication stung. "Yes. I bought it last weekend at the mall. The receipt is in the bag." "And this nice car," Daniels continued, running his hand along the hood. "Brand new silver sedan. How does a student afford this again?" "I told you, I saved up, I work, and I had help from my family," Amara said, her patience wearing thin but her voice remaining controlled. "Must be some family," Thompson muttered, continuing to search. After 15 minutes of searching and finding nothing suspicious, the officers finally seemed to lose interest. But instead of letting her go, Daniels returned to examining her driver's license more carefully. "Johnson," he read aloud. "Amara Johnson. That's an unusual name." "It means grace in Swahili," she said automatically, a response she'd given countless times throughout her life. "Fancy," Thompson commented, leaning against her car. "Parents must be real worldly types." "My father chose it," Amara said simply. Daniels was still studying her license. "Address says West Hill Gardens. That's a nice neighborhood for a student." "I live with my father when I'm not in the dorms," Amara explained, growing increasingly aware of the watching crowd. A car slowed down considerably as it passed, the driver clearly trying to see what was happening. Amara recognized him as a professor from the history department. He made eye contact with her briefly before driving on, and she wondered if he would report what he'd seen. "So what does your dad do that he can afford West Hill Gardens and this nice car for his daughter?" Thompson asked, his tone suggesting he didn't believe her. Amara hesitated. She never liked using her father's position. It felt like cheating somehow. But the situation was becoming unbearable. "He works for the government," she said vaguely. "Government, huh? What, like post office?" Daniels laughed, sharing another look with his partner. "Something like that," Amara replied, not wanting to elaborate. Daniels suddenly squinted at her license again, something catching his attention. His expression changed subtly as he showed it to Thompson. "Johnson," he said more slowly. "From West Hill Gardens." Thompson's eyes widened slightly as he looked from the license to Amara's face. "Your father wouldn't happen to be Elijah Johnson, would he?" Daniels asked, his voice suddenly much more formal. Amara met his gaze directly. "Yes, that's my father." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Both officers straightened up, and Thompson quickly began gathering her scattered belongings, placing them back in her backpack with surprising care. "Well, everything seems to be in order here," Daniel said, his voice now professionally pleasant. "Just wanted to make sure you were safe, driving so late." "Your taillight is actually fine," Thompson added quickly. "Must have been a reflection or something." Amara said nothing, watching as they hurriedly tried to undo the mess they'd made of her car. The small crowd of onlookers remained, sensing the sudden change, but not understanding why. "You're free to go, Ms. Johnson," Daniel said, handing back her license and registration with a forced smile. "Drive safely now." As they backed away toward their cruiser, Amara remained standing by her car. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, holding it up so they could see it. My father installed a dashboard camera in my car last Christmas, she said calmly. For safety reasons. It records audio too. The officers froze, looking at each other with barely concealed panic. Have a good evening, officers, Amara said, getting back into her car with as much dignity as she could muster. As she drove away, hands shaking slightly on the steering wheel, she couldn't help but wonder how the night would have ended if she hadn't been the justice minister's daughter, and how many others faced similar treatment without the protection her father's position had ultimately provided. Amara's hands trembled as she pulled into her driveway. The colonial-style house she shared with her father sat dark except for the porch light, which meant he was probably still at his office. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or disappointed. She sat in her car for several minutes, breathing deeply to calm herself. The dashboard camera's small red light blinked steadily, reminding her that everything, every word, every insult, had been recorded. Part of her wanted to delete it all and pretend nothing had happened. Another part knew better. Inside, Amara dropped her backpack by the door and kicked off her shoes. The house felt too quiet, too empty. She checked her phone, 11:48 p.m. and 3 missed calls from her roommate Zoe. She would call back tomorrow. Right now, she just needed a shower to wash away the feeling of those officers' eyes on her. The hot water helped, but not enough. As she wrapped herself in her favorite fuzzy robe, her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Working late. Don't wait up. Love you. Amara texted back. Love you too. We need to talk tomorrow. She added a heart emoji, not wanting to worry him. Sleep didn't come easily. Amara tossed and turned, replaying the night's events in her mind. The way Officer Daniels had smirked while commenting on her hair. The disbelief in their voices when she mentioned her economics major. The humiliation of standing helpless as they searched her car, watched by strangers. And then the instant change when they realized whose daughter she was. Morning came too quickly. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through her curtains and the smell of coffee from downstairs. Her father was home. Elijah Johnson sat at the kitchen, island. Newspaper spread before him, a half-eaten piece of toast on his plate. At 52, he still maintained the athletic build of his youth, though silver now threaded through his short, tightly curled hair. His reading glasses sat low on his nose as he reviewed what looked like work documents. Morning, Dad, Amara said, pouring herself coffee. He looked up with a warm smile that faded when he saw her face. What's wrong? You look like you barely slept. Amara sat across from him, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Something happened last night. I got pulled over. Her father set down his papers, giving her his full attention. Were you speeding? No. They claimed my taillight was out, but it wasn't. It was just an excuse. Elijah frowned. Tell me everything. As Amara recounted the previous night's events, her father's expression darkened. He didn't interrupt, just listened intently, his jaw tightening when she described how the officers had mocked her hair and questioned her ownership of the car. I have it all on the dash cam, she finished. They panicked when they realized who you were. Elijah removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm so sorry you went through that, sweetheart. It's not your fault. No, but he sighed deeply. I've spent my career fighting against exactly this kind of behavior, and my own daughter experiences it anyway. What would have happened if I wasn't your daughter? Amara asked quietly. What if I was just any black girl driving home? Her father had no answer, and they both knew why. I want to see the footage, he said finally. They moved to his home office, where Amara connected her phone to his computer to download the video. The camera had captured everything. The initial stop, the officers' comments, the unnecessary search, and their panic upon discovering her identity. Elijah watched in silence, his expression unreadable. When it ended, he leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes briefly. Officers Daniels and Thompson, he said, making note of their names. Precinct 18 according to their cruiser. What are you going to do? Amara asked. Her father looked at her thoughtfully. What do you want me to do? The question caught her off guard. She'd expected him to immediately call the police chief or hold a press conference. That was what he did. Justice Minister Elijah Johnson, known for his zero-tolerance approach to police misconduct and tireless advocacy for reform. "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to forget it happened." "And the other part?" Amara thought about it. "The other part knows that if this happened to me, with all my privilege, it happens to others who don't have a justice minister for a father." Elijah nodded, pride evident in his eyes. "So again, what do you want to do?" Before she could answer, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "Have you seen this? It's all over campus." Attached was a video taken from across the street during last night's stop. Someone had recorded the officers searching her car and questioning her, then posted it online. Already it had thousands of views. "Dad," Amara said, showing him the message. Someone recorded it. They watched the video together. It didn't capture all the audio, but the visual was damning enough. A young black woman standing alone while two officers searched her car without apparent cause. "The internet moves faster than justice sometimes," Elijah said grimly. "You should know that once this gains traction, reporters will figure out who you are. Are you prepared for that?" Amara hadn't considered becoming a news story. She had exams. Next week, a research paper due, her roommate's birthday dinner tonight. Normal college student concerns. But normal had evaporated the moment those police lights flashed in her mirror. "I don't want special treatment because I'm your daughter," she said finally. "But I don't want to hide what happened either." Her father nodded slowly. "Then we address this head on. Not as the justice minister and his daughter, but as citizens, demanding accountability." Amara's phone buzzed again, this time a call from Zoe. "I should get this," she said, and her father nodded. "Hey," she answered, stepping into the hallway. "Oh my God. Amara, are you okay?" Zoe's voice came through, worried and loud. "That was you in the video, right? The one with the cops last night?" "Yeah, that was me. I'm fine." "Fine? Are you serious? They treated you like a criminal. For what? Driving your own car? Professor Harlow saw it happen and told everyone in his morning class about it. People are furious." Amara leaned against the wall, suddenly tired. "It happens all the time, Zoe. Not to you, not like that." There was a pause. "Did you tell your dad?" "I'm at his house now. We watched the video." "Good. He'll destroy those cops." Zoe had met Elijah once and had been somewhat starstruck by the justice minister. They picked the wrong girl to mess with. The words made Amara uncomfortable. That's the problem, though. They shouldn't be messing with anyone like that. Back in the office, Elijah was on the phone, his voice taking on the formal tone he used for official business. "Yes, I understand the sensitivity. No, I don't want this handled quietly. There will be a formal investigation following standard procedures. I am calling as a citizen and a father, not as the justice minister." When he hung up, he looked at Amara. "That was Chief Reynolds. The video has reached police headquarters. They're already doing damage control." "What did you tell him?" "That I expect a formal investigation, not special treatment, and that you and I will be filing an official complaint this afternoon." Amara nodded, grateful for her father's understanding. "The semester ends in 3 weeks. After that, I could use my experience to help others. Maybe work with your community. Outreach program?" Her father smiled sadly. "Always thinking of others. But first, take care of yourself. This won't be easy." "Being your daughter was never going to be easy," she replied with a small smile. "Being a young black woman is never easy," he corrected gently. "But you handle it with such grace. Your mother would be proud." The mention of her mother, gone 5 years now, brought unexpected tears to Amara's eyes. "I miss her today." "Me too, sweetheart." He squeezed her hand. She would have marched down to that precinct herself. Amara's phone kept buzzing with notifications. The video was spreading and friends were reaching out to check on her. She turned it to silent mode. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we document everything properly. File the complaint. Follow procedure." Elijah looked at her seriously. and prepare for attention you didn't ask for. By midday, local news stations had picked up the story. Young woman racially profiled by police officers, read one headline. No mention yet of who she was or who her father was, but Amara knew it was only a matter of time. She sat at the kitchen table trying to focus on her economics textbook when the doorbell rang. Elijah went to answer it. "Minister Johnson," came a voice from the door. "Can you comment on the viral video of police officers conducting an illegal search last night?" Amara closed her book. So it had begun. Her father's voice carried from the entryway, measured and firm. "I have no official comment at this time. This is my private residence. Please respect my family's privacy." He closed the door and returned to the kitchen, his expression grim. Channel 7 News. They won't be the last. Amara's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Is this Amara Johnson? This is Officer Daniels from last night. Can we please talk?" She showed the message to her father, who frowned. "How did he get your number?" "I don't know." The thought made her skin crawl. "Don't respond," Elijah advised. "Any communication should go through official channels now." Another text came through. "Please, Ms. Johnson. My partner and I want to apologize. We never meant to cause trouble." Amara turned off her phone completely. "They're scared." "They should be," her father said quietly. "But not because you're my daughter. Because what they did was wrong." As they gathered their things to go file the official complaint, Amara paused in the hallway looking at a family photo. Herself, her father, and her mother at her high school graduation. She touched her mother's smiling face. "I'll make this count," she whispered. "For everyone who doesn't have what I have." Her father stood waiting by the door, car keys in hand. "Ready?" Amara nodded, straightening her shoulders. "Ready." The police station bustled with activity as Amara and her father walked through the front doors. Conversations quieted as people recognized Justice Minister Johnson, whispers following in their wake. Amara kept her head high, though her stomach twisted with anxiety. At the front desk, a young officer looked up and immediately straightened in his chair. "Minister Johnson, how can I help you today, sir?" "We're here to file a formal complaint," Elijah said, his voice calm but authoritative. "Is Captain Rivera available?" "I'll check right away, sir." The officer picked up his phone, speaking quietly, into it while glancing nervously at them. Amara studied the station while they waited. She'd visited her father's office many times, but had never been inside an actual police precinct before. It was both busier and more mundane than she'd expected. Officers, typing reports, people waiting on hard plastic chairs, phones ringing continuously. "Minister Johnson," came a woman's voice from down the hall. "This is an unexpected pleasure." Captain Rivera approached them, hand extended. She was a compact woman with short salt and pepper hair and shrewd eyes that missed nothing. "And this must be your daughter, Amara. I've heard a lot about you." "Only good things, I hope," Amara replied, shaking the captain's hand. "Your father brags about you constantly." Captain Rivera's smile faded as she noted their serious expressions. "But I suspect this isn't a social call. Perhaps we could speak in your office," Elijah suggested. "Of course. Follow me." As they walked through the station, Amara noticed heads turning, conversations pausing. One officer in particular, a heavy-set man with a receding hairline, nearly dropped his coffee mug when he saw them. He quickly ducked into another room. "Captain." Rivera's office was small but tidy, with a window overlooking the parking lot. She closed the door behind them and gestured to the chairs opposite her desk. "Now, what can I do for you today?" she asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. Elijah glanced at Amara, who nodded. They had agreed she would take the lead. "I want to file a complaint against 2 officers from this precinct," Amara said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Officers Daniels and Thompson." Captain Rivera's face remained professional, but Amara caught the slight tightening around her eyes. "May I ask what this is regarding?" "They pulled me over last night without cause, conducted an illegal search of my vehicle, and behaved in a manner that was both unprofessional and discriminatory. The captain leaned back slightly. That's a serious accusation. We have evidence, Elijah added. The entire incident was recorded on a dashboard camera. I see. Captain Rivera reached for a form in her desk drawer. We take all complaints seriously, especially ones involving potential discrimination. I'll need you to fill this out with as much detail as possible. As Amara began writing, the captain addressed Elijah. Minister, may I speak frankly? Please do. I respect the work you've done pushing for accountability in law enforcement. I support it, but you know how these things typically play out. I do, Elijah replied evenly, which is precisely why we're here, following proper procedure, rather than holding a press conference. I appreciate that. Captain Rivera lowered her voice. But you should know that a video of the incident is already circulating online. My phone hasn't stopped ringing all morning. Amara looked up from her form. We didn't release the dashboard footage. This appears to be filmed by a bystander. It doesn't have audio, but the visuals alone are problematic. Truth often is, Elijah said simply. A knock at the door interrupted them. Captain Rivera called, "Enter," and a young officer poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, Captain, but Chief Wilson is on the phone. He says it's urgent. Captain Rivera sighed. Tell him. I'll call back in 10 minutes. He insisted, ma'am. Said it's about the Johnson situation. Amara and her father exchanged glances. The Johnson situation. Already they had become a situation. Excuse me, Captain Rivera said, standing. I need to take this. Please continue with the form, and I'll be right back. When the door closed, behind her Amara set down her pen. Everyone knows. Did you expect anything different? Her father's voice was gentle. News travels fast when it involves people in positions of power. I'm not the one in power. You are, which makes you adjacent to power. It's not fair, but it's reality. Amara nodded, returning to the form. She detailed the previous night's events as factually as possible. The false reason for the stop, the officer's comments about her hair, their disbelief about her car ownership and education, the unnecessary search conducted without consent. Captain Rivera returned, looking slightly flustered. I apologize for the interruption. Was that the police chief? Elijah asked. Yes. He's concerned about the optics of this situation. I imagine he is, Elijah replied dryly. He'd like to meet with you both, actually. He's on his way here. Now, Amara frowned. Is that normal procedure for a civilian complaint? No, Captain Rivera admitted. But this isn't a normal complaint. Because of who my father is. Partly yes. And partly because the video has gone viral. Over 50,000 views in the last 3 hours. Amara hadn't checked social media since turning off her phone. 50,000 people had seen her humiliation. The thought made her feel slightly ill. We'll meet with the chief, Elijah said. But the complaint will be processed according to standard procedures. No exceptions. Understood. Captain Rivera took the completed form from Amara. I'll get this started right away. Another knock at the door revealed a different officer, this one looking distinctly uncomfortable. Yes, Officer Chen? Captain Rivera asked. Officers Daniels and Thompson are asking permission to speak with Minister Johnson and his daughter. They're in the break room. Amara felt a surge of anger. They've been here this whole time? They came in for their shift about 20 minutes ago, Officer Chen explained. Someone told them you were here filing a complaint. Captain Rivera looked to Elijah. It's entirely your choice whether to speak with them. Elijah turned to Amara. Your choice, not mine. These officers wronged you, not me. Amara considered her options. Part of her wanted to refuse, to let the official complaint process take its course. Another part was curious about what they might say now that they knew who she was. Now that they were scared. I'll speak with them, she decided. But not alone. And not here. The conference room might be better, Captain Rivera suggested. More neutral ground. The conference room was large and impersonal. with a long table surrounded by chairs and a whiteboard covering one wall. Amara sat beside her father. Captain Rivera positioned herself at the head of the table, and two empty chairs waited across from them. When Officers Daniels and Thompson entered, Amara was struck by how different they seemed from the night before. Gone was their arrogance, replaced by obvious discomfort. They wore full uniforms rather than the casual attire they'd had during their night shift. "Minister Johnson," Officer Daniels said, nodding respectfully. "Ms. Johnson, thank you for agreeing to speak with us." "Have a seat," Captain Rivera instructed, her tone making it clear she was in charge. The officers sat down, neither making eye contact with Amara. "You requested this meeting," Elijah said. "We're listening." Officer Thompson cleared his throat. "We wanted to apologize for last night. Our behavior was unprofessional." "Unprofessional," Amara repeated. "Is that what you call it?" Officer Daniels shifted in his seat. "We made some inappropriate comments. The stop itself was legitimate." "No, it wasn't," Amara interrupted. "My taillights worked perfectly. You lied about that. Then you searched my car without consent and made insulting remarks about my appearance, my education, and my belongings. We had reason to believe." "What reason?" Elijah asked calmly. "Please, explain what legitimate reason you had to pull over my daughter, search her vehicle, and treat her with such disrespect." The officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. "That's what I thought," Elijah continued. "Now, I believe you mentioned an apology?" Officer Thompson leaned forward, finally, looking directly at Amara. "Ms. Johnson, we are truly sorry for how we treated you last night. It was wrong and there's no excuse for it." "Would you be apologizing if I wasn't the Justice Minister's daughter?" Amara asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. "That's what I thought," she said quietly. Captain Rivera, who had been observing silently, spoke up. "Officers, you should know that Ms. Johnson has filed a formal complaint regarding this incident. There is also video evidence both from her dashboard camera and from a bystander. An internal affairs investigation will be launched immediately." "Captain, is that really necessary?" Officer Daniels asked, his face paling. "We've apologized. We recognize our mistake." "It's not a question of necessity," the captain replied. "It's procedure. All complaints of this nature must be properly investigated." "But, Officer Daniels," Elijah interrupted, "the fact that you're questioning whether your actions deserve investigation speaks volumes. If you believed you acted appropriately, you would welcome the chance to clear your name." Before either officer could respond, the door opened, and a tall man in a crisp uniform entered. "Chief Wilson," Captain Rivera said, standing. "Minister Johnson," the police chief said, extending his hand. "I apologize for keeping you waiting." "No apology necessary," Elijah replied. "We were just having an enlightening conversation with Officers Daniels and Thompson." Chief Wilson looked at the two officers, his expression unreadable. "I see. Officers, you're dismissed. Report to Lieutenant Patel for reassignment." "Reassignment," Officer Daniels repeated. "Administrative duties until the investigation is complete," the chief clarified. "Standard procedure." The officers left, reluctantly, casting glances back at Amara as they exited. She maintained her composure, though her heart raced. Chief Wilson took a seat where Officer Daniels had been. "Minister Johnson, Ms. Johnson, I want to personally apologize for the behavior of my officers. It falls far below the standards we expect." "I appreciate that," Amara said, "but what concerns me isn't just what happened to me. It's what happens to people who don't have my connections, who don't have dashboard cameras, who aren't believed when they report misconduct." The chief nodded soberly. "A valid concern, one your father has raised repeatedly in his role as Justice Minister. And now you're seeing it firsthand," Elijah said. "My daughter experienced exactly what thousands of others experience daily. The only difference is that she has resources and support that many don't." "What do you intend to do about this situation?" Chief Wilson asked directly. Amara looked at her father, then back at the chief. "I intend to see the complaint process through properly. I want those officers held accountable, not because of who I am, but because what they did was wrong. And if I may add, Elijah said, we expect transparent communication about the investigation and its outcomes. No special treatment, but no covering up either. Chief Wilson nodded slowly. Understood. I can assure you both that this matter will be handled with the utmost seriousness. As they left the police station 30 minutes later, reporters had already gathered outside. Camera flashes greeted them as they emerged. Minister Johnson, is it true your daughter was racially profiled last night? Amara, how do you feel about the officer's behavior? Minister, will you be calling for the officer's termination? Elijah raised a hand, silencing the clamor. We have no comment at this time. We are following proper procedures and expect the police department to do the same. Please respect our privacy. He guided Amara through the crowd to their car, shielding her from the cameras. Once inside with the doors closed, he turned to her. Are you okay? Amara looked back at the reporters still shouting questions. At the police station where officers, Daniels and Thompson, were likely panicking about their careers, at the world that had suddenly become so much more complicated. No, she answered honestly. But I will be. And maybe something good will come from all this. It already has, her father said, squeezing her hand. You stood up not just for yourself, but for everyone who's been in your position without the power to fight back. That matters. Amara nodded, watching the scene through the car window as her father drove away. The story was just beginning, and she knew the hardest parts were yet to come. The morning sun streamed through the blinds of Amara's dorm room as she stared at her laptop screen. 3 days had passed since the incident, and the story had exploded, beyond anything she could have imagined. Daughter of Justice Minister racially profiled by police, read one headline. Officers suspended after harassing Justice Minister's daughter, proclaimed another. The video had gone viral, accumulating millions of views. News outlets across the country had picked up the story. Her phone had so many notifications that she'd turned it off completely. A knock at her door broke her concentration. Amara? It's me, came Zoe's voice. Come in, Amara called, closing her laptop. Zoe entered carrying 2 coffee cups and a concerned expression. Her curly red hair was pulled into a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept well either. I brought you coffee, she said, setting 1 cup on Amara's desk. And breakfast, but I left that with your hallmates. They're like guard dogs out there, not letting anyone through who isn't on your approved list. Amara smiled weakly. That was my dad's idea. Too many reporters were showing up here. Smart man. Zoe sat on the edge of Amara's bed. How are you holding up, really? Amara sighed, reaching for the coffee. I don't know. I never wanted to be the center of a national conversation about police reform. But if anyone can handle it, it's you. I'm not sure that's true. Amara took a sip of her coffee. I've got 3 exams next week that I can barely focus on. Reporters calling constantly. Random people sending messages of support or not support. Not support? Zoe frowned. Apparently some people think I set the whole thing up, that I baited those officers because of who my father is. That's ridiculous, is it? Amara set down her cup. My dad has been pushing police reform legislation for years. Some people think this is too convenient. Zoe leaned forward. Amara, I've known you since freshman year. You're the last person who would exploit your father's position for attention. Thanks. Amara managed a small smile. I just want things to go back to normal. Normal might not be an option anymore, Zoe said gently. But maybe that's not a bad thing. You have a platform now. A voice people are listening to. Before Amara could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Turn on Channel 7 News. Amara grabbed the remote and switched on the small TV in her dorm room. The screen showed a press conference at police headquarters. Chief Wilson stood at a podium, flanked by other officers and city officials. After reviewing the evidence and conducting preliminary interviews, we have placed Officers Daniels and Thompson on administrative leave, pending a full investigation. the chief was saying. The dashcam footage clearly shows behavior that falls well below the standards we expect from our officers. The camera panned to show Officers Daniels and Thompson standing off to the side, looking uncomfortable in full uniform. Additionally, Chief Wilson continued, "We are implementing an immediate department-wide review of our training procedures regarding traffic stops and community interactions." A reporter called out, "Chief Wilson, would this investigation be happening if the young woman wasn't Justice Minister Johnson's daughter?" The chief's expression tightened slightly. "This department investigates all legitimate complaints of officer misconduct, regardless of who files them." Another reporter shouted, "Is it true the officers have apologized directly to Ms. Johnson and her father? I cannot comment on private conversations." Next question. Amara muted the TV, shaking her head. "They're making it sound like everything's being handled perfectly. Isn't it?" Zoe asked. "The officers are suspended. There's an investigation. Because I'm the Justice Minister's daughter. What about all the other people who file complaints that go nowhere? Who don't have video evidence or powerful parents?" Her phone buzzed again with another text from her father. "Don't believe everything you see. Meeting with Mayor Brooks in an hour. Call you after." Amara showed the message to Zoe. "See? There's more happening behind the scenes." "Of course there is. Your dad is using his position to push for real change. That's good, right? I guess. But it still feels like I'm getting special treatment." Zoe stood up and paced the small room. "Look, maybe you are, but you can use that to help others. You have a spotlight now. What are you going to do with it?" The question lingered in Amara's mind as she tried to focus on her economics textbook. What could she do? She was just a college student, not an activist or politician. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Usually she would ignore it, but something made her answer. "Hello? Ms. Johnson? This is Lisa Chen from the Community Justice Network. Do you have a moment to talk?" Amara hesitated. "How did you get my number?" "Your father gave it to me. He thought we might have some common interests." The Community Justice Network was a respected advocacy group that worked on police reform and racial justice issues. Amara had attended one of their events with her father last year. "What kind of common interests?" "We're organizing a town hall next week about police accountability. Given recent events, we thought you might be interested in participating. Your perspective could be valuable." Amara's first instinct was to say no. She had exams. She wasn't a public speaker. She just wanted everything to go back to normal. But Zoe's words echoed in her mind. "You have a spotlight now. What are you going to do with it?" "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course. The event is next Wednesday evening. Please let me know by Monday." After hanging up, Amara stared out her window at the campus below. Students walked between buildings, laughing and talking, their biggest worry being the next exam or party. A week ago, that was her life too. Her phone buzzed with a campus alert. "Press conference. President Wei will address recent events involving student Amara Johnson today at 2 p.m. in the administration building." "Great," Amara muttered. "Now the university is involved." Zoe, who had been quietly working at Amara's desk, looked up. "Are you going?" "I don't know, should I?" "If you don't, they'll talk about you without you there." Amara nodded slowly. "You're right, I should go." 2 hours later, Amara sat in the front row of a packed conference room in the administration building. University President Wei, a petite woman with a commanding presence, stood at the podium addressing the crowd of students, faculty, and media. "Our university has always stood for equality, justice, and respect," President Wei was saying. "The treatment Ms. Johnson received runs contrary to those values. We are offering our full support to her during this difficult time." Amara kept her expression neutral, though she noted that no one from the university had actually reached out to offer support until now. Furthermore, President Wei continued, "We are expanding our community relations program to include workshops on understanding and navigating interactions with law enforcement, particularly for our students of color." A murmur ran through the audience. Amara felt a flash of irritation. Why should students have to learn how to avoid being mistreated by police? Shouldn't the focus be on police behavior? The president opened the floor for questions. A young man, with a campus newspaper badge, stood up. This incident has sparked national conversation about racial profiling. How will the university address systemic racism in our community? President Wei gave a diplomatic answer about ongoing diversity initiatives and community partnerships. It sounded rehearsed and vague to Amara's ears. Another student rose. Amara is here today. Shouldn't we hear from her directly about her experience? All eyes turned to Amara. President Wei looked momentarily flustered. Of course, if Ms. Johnson wishes to speak, we welcome her perspective. Amara hadn't planned to say anything, but seeing the expectant faces of her fellow students, she realized this was an opportunity. She walked to the podium, her heart pounding. The room fell silent. Thank you, President Wei, she began, her voice steadier than she expected. What happened to me last week was humiliating and frightening. But it was also ordinary. The only unusual thing was that I had evidence and connections that made people listen. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. I appreciate the university's support, but workshops on how to interact with police put the burden on the wrong people. We shouldn't have to learn special techniques to avoid being mistreated. The focus should be on changing the system that allows such treatment in the first place. A scattered applause broke out, growing louder as she continued. I don't want special treatment because of who my father is. What I want is for everyone to receive fair and respectful treatment, regardless of who their parents are or what they look like. The applause grew louder still. Amara felt a surge of confidence. If the university truly wants to help partner with organizations that are already doing the work of police reform and community justice, support student initiatives that address these issues, and recognize that workshops alone won't solve systemic problems. As she stepped away from the podium, the room erupted in cheers. President Wei looked surprised but quickly recovered, thanking Amara for her passionate perspective and promising to take her suggestions under advisement. Outside after the press conference, students surrounded Amara, sharing their own stories of profiling and discrimination. Faculty members offered support. Even local reporters seemed impressed by her unplanned speech. Her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Just saw the live stream. So proud of you. Call me when you can. As the crowd dispersed, Professor Harlow, the history professor who had witnessed her traffic stop, approached. Powerful words in there, he said. You found your voice. I'm not sure I was looking for it, Amara admitted. The best voices often emerge when we're not looking, he replied. The question is, what will you say now that people are listening? That evening, Amara sat in her dorm room with her laptop open to a blank document. The title at the top read, Town Hall Speaking Points. She began typing. My name is Amara Johnson. I am a college student, a daughter, and a young black woman trying to navigate a world that doesn't always see me clearly. What happened to me last week has happened to countless others who didn't have the privilege of being heard. Today, I want to use my voice for them. The words flowed easily now. This wasn't about her anymore, it was about something bigger. Her phone rang, her father calling. Hey, Dad. Sweetheart, you were amazing today, he said, his voice warm with pride. But I need to tell you something. Those officers, Daniels and Thompson, their disciplinary hearing is tomorrow. They've requested that you attend. Amara frowned. Why would they want me there? I don't know, but you don't have to go if you don't want to. She thought about it, remembering their faces when they realized who she was. Their panic. Their rushed apologies. No, she said finally. I'll be there. They should have to look me in the eye when they explain themselves. That's my girl, her father said softly. I'll pick you up at 9. After they hung up, Amara returned to her document, adding a new section. Accountability isn't about punishment, it's about growth and change. If we want a better system, we need to be honest about where the current one fails, and we need to be brave enough to demand better, not just for ourselves but for everyone. Outside her window, the campus had grown quiet as evening settled in, but Amara felt more awake, more alive than she had in days. Something had shifted inside her. The spotlight she'd never wanted now felt like a responsibility she could shoulder. Tomorrow would bring the disciplinary hearing. Next week, the town hall. Beyond that, who knew? But for the first time since those police lights had flashed in her rearview mirror, Amara felt like she was driving her own story again. 3 months had passed since that night when flashing police lights had changed Amara's life. Summer had arrived, bringing warm breezes and new beginnings. Standing at the podium in the community center, Amara looked out at the packed room. Community members, students, police officers, and city officials all gathered together. 6 months ago, I was just a college student worried about exams and hanging out with friends, she began, her voice steady and confident now after dozens of speaking engagements. I never imagined I would be here today, launching a community program that bridges the gap between law enforcement and the people they serve. In the front row, her father beamed with pride. Beside him sat University President Way, Police Chief Wilson, and Mayor Brooks, all supporting the initiative that had grown from a single troubling incident into a movement for change. The disciplinary hearing for Officers Daniels and Thompson had been a turning point. Amara had arrived that morning in April expecting hostility or hollow apologies. Instead, she found 2 men who seemed genuinely shaken by the consequences of their actions. "Ms. Johnson," Officer Daniels had said, his voice humble in a way she hadn't heard before, "what we did that night was wrong. Not just unprofessional, wrong. We've had time to reflect, and we want to do better." Officer Thompson had nodded in agreement. "We've been going through the department's bias training, but it's not enough. We need to understand how our actions impact real people." Their words had sounded sincere, but Amara remained cautious. "What are you asking from me?" "Nothing," Officer Daniels had replied. "You don't owe us anything, but if you're willing, we'd like to be part of whatever changes come from this. We want to be part of the solution." That conversation had planted a seed. After completing her spring semester exams, Amara had approached her father with an idea. A program bringing together community members and police officers for honest conversations and relationship building. Now, 3 months later, building bridges was becoming a reality. A pilot program supported by the university, the police department, and the mayor's office. "This program isn't about forgetting past hurts," Amara continued in her speech. "It's about acknowledging them honestly and working together to create a better future. When Officers Daniels and Thompson pulled me over that night, they didn't see me. They saw assumptions and stereotypes. Today, we begin the work of truly seeing each other." She gestured to the side of the stage, where Officers Daniels and Thompson stood in civilian clothes rather than uniforms. Their suspension had ended, but they had requested community liaison positions rather than returning to patrol duties. "What makes this program different is that it's led by the community, for the community," Amara explained. "Police officers will participate not as authorities but as equal partners in dialogue. We'll address hard topics, racial profiling, use of force, community mistrust, with honesty and respect." The audience applauded as Amara introduced the program's leadership team: community activists, retired police officers, university professors, and students who had experienced profiling firsthand. Each would bring unique perspectives to the initiative. "I'd like to introduce our first participants," Amara said, gesturing to a diverse group seated together. "These 20 community members and 15 police officers have committed to meeting weekly for the next 6 months. They'll share meals, stories, and experiences with the goal of building understanding and trust." Among the participants sat Zoe, who had insisted on joining to support her friend. Next to her was Professor Harlow, whose witnessing of Amara's traffic stop had helped bring attention to the incident. "We don't expect miracles overnight," Amara acknowledged. "Changing systems and mindsets takes time. But every journey begins with a single step, and today we take that step together." After her speech, as people mingled and chatted over refreshments, Amara found a quiet corner to catch her breath. The past few months had been a whirlwind, finishing her sophomore year while becoming the face of a movement she hadn't sought to lead. "You did good, kid," came her father's voice as he approached with 2 cups of punch. Your mother would be so proud. Amara accepted the cup, smiling at the mention of her mother. I think about her all the time during this. What she would say, what advice she would give. She'd tell you to stay true to yourself while fighting for others, which is exactly what you're doing. Elijah glanced around the room. This is quite something you've built. We've built, Amara corrected. I couldn't have done this without your support. You give me too much credit. This was your vision. Before she could respond, Chief Wilson approached them, looking more relaxed. In a suit rather than his uniform. Minister Johnson, Ms. Johnson, he greeted them with a nod. Impressive turnout today. Thank you for your department's participation, Chief, Amara replied. It means a lot to have officers voluntarily joining the program. Some were more enthusiastic than others, he admitted. But your presentation to our leadership team last month was persuasive. Hard to argue with results from similar programs in other cities. Amara had spent weeks researching successful community police initiatives across the country, building a compelling case for why building bridges could work locally. The data had been crucial in winning over skeptical officials. Speaking of results, Elijah said, I understand complaint rates are down since you implemented the new training protocols. Down 12%, the chief confirmed, and officer satisfaction is up. Turns out most officers want better community relationships too. They just needed a framework. Across the room, Amara spotted Officers Daniels and Thompson in conversation with several community members. Their body language was open, their expressions earnest as they listened more than they spoke. Excuse me, Amara said, making her way toward them. As she approached, the group's conversation paused. Officer Thompson noticed her first. Ms. Johnson, he said, standing a little straighter. Great speech. Thank you, she replied. How are you finding the new liaison positions? Different, Officer Daniels admitted. But good different. I'm learning a lot. We both are, Thompson added. Yesterday I visited the community center in Oak Ridge, the neighborhood I grew up in but somehow stopped seeing clearly once I put on the uniform. Amara nodded, understanding. It's easy to forget the humanity of places and people when you only see them in one context. Exactly, Daniels agreed. That's what happened that night with you. We didn't see you, just another traffic stop, another chance to assert authority. And now? Amara asked. Now we're trying to see people first, Thompson said. The whole person, not just a situation to control. Their words weren't perfect, and Amara knew change wouldn't happen overnight. But the fact that these conversations were happening at all represented progress. A tap on the microphone drew everyone's attention back to the podium, where Mayor Brooks stood ready to speak. Before we conclude today's event, the mayor began, I'd like to make an announcement. Based on the tremendous community response to building bridges, the City Council has approved funding to extend the program for a full year, with the possibility of permanent implementation based on outcomes. Applause filled the room. Amara felt a surge of emotion. This was real change happening, not just talk. Additionally, the mayor continued, I'm pleased to announce that Amara Johnson has agreed to join my Youth Advisory Council to help shape policies affecting young people in our community. More applause and several surprised looks directed at Amara. She hadn't told many people about accepting the mayor's invitation. As the event wound down, Amara found herself surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. Professor Harlow approached, with a small gift bag. For you, he said, handing it to her. A little something from the history department. Inside was a leather-bound journal with her name embossed on the cover. For recording this journey, he explained. What you're doing here is making history in its own way. Amara hugged him, touched by the gesture. Thank you for being there, that night. For being a witness. Sometimes bearing witness is the most important thing we can do, he replied. But what you've done is take it a step further, turning observation into action. Later that evening, as the community center emptied, Amara sat alone in a row of chairs, taking a moment to process everything. The Building Bridges program was launched. Her summer internship with the Justice Department would start next week. Somehow, in the midst of chaos, she had found a path forward. Ready to go, sweetheart? Her father asked, coat draped over his arm as he waited by the door. Almost, Amara said, opening her new journal to the first blank page. She took out a pen and wrote, "Today marks not an ending but a beginning. 3 months ago I was humiliated and angry, feeling powerless despite, my privileged position. Today I understand that power isn't just about who your parents are or what position you hold. It's about using your voice and your experiences to create change." Those officers didn't know they were mocking the justice minister's daughter that night. But what matters more is that they, and others like them, now know that every person they interact with deserves dignity and respect, regardless of who their parents are. This journey hasn't been easy. There were days I wanted to hide, to transfer to another university, to pretend none of this ever happened. But the harder path has led to something meaningful, not just for me, but for my community. Today, we took a first step. Tomorrow, we take another. Amara closed the journal, tucked it into her bag, and joined her father at the door. As they walked to the car, the evening sky spread above them, stars beginning to appear against the deepening blue. "What's next?" her father asked, unlocking the car. Amara looked back at the community center, then up at the stars, feeling a sense of possibility she hadn't known before. "Everything," she replied, smiling. "Everything is next." As they drove home, Amara watched. The city pass by outside her window. The same streets where she had once been pulled over and humiliated, now transformed in her mind into pathways of potential and change. The incident that had started as her lowest moment had somehow become the foundation for her purpose. And in that moment, Amara knew with certainty that while prejudice had the power to wound, it did not have the final word. That belonged to those brave enough to stand up, speak out, and build something better from the broken pieces.